Hi, everybody. Happy to have you here tonight in the locker room. I'm Alan Locher. We've got a great show ahead as we dive into the world of Montecito, the sizzling new audio soap opera that's been turning heads and turning up the heat. Joining me tonight is the creator and executive producer of Montecito, Emmy-nominated producer Grant Rutter. Grant is a visionary behind the bold new take on the soap opera format, and he's brought together a dream team to bring it to life. Also joining us tonight is Andrew Pemberton-Fowler, founder and CEO of Soapcast. A lifelong fan and student of the soap opera, Andrew served as story editor and scriptwriter on Montecito and helped shape every dramatic twist and turn. Also joining us is my pal Vincent Irizarry, who stars as Bradley Belasco, the powerful and ageless playboy whose presence looms large in the world of Montecito. Sadly, as previously announced, Chelsea Rendon, who plays Mina Rast Granville, and Peter Porte, who plays Deacon, were not able to join us tonight, but we'll certainly talk about their fierce performances and the roles they play in the drama. With just 2 episodes left this season, there's plenty to unpack, so please welcome Grant Rutter to the locker room. Hey, Grant.
Hi, Alan. This is such a big moment for the show. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate you being such a support. Thank you.
Well, I was hooked from the very first episode.
You mentioned that, and you know soap opera, so that was very flattering.
I really, and I'm not a huge podcast lover, but I was. I mean, of course, I know many people in this, but before we dive in, tell everybody watching what show you grew up watching.
Oh, I grew up in a Guiding Light household, CBS daytime, but all about Guiding Light. That we had a GL tape. I think what you would record over. They only lasted for so long. I think we had like GL tape 6 or something, and that was our family show.
So Mom was the impetus.
Yeah, my mother discovered the show in high school where we grew up in Rhode Island. It came on at the local CBS affiliate at 3 p.m. So it picked up a lot of kids getting out of school. So it was easier to watch, obviously, than a 1 o'clock show. And, it was part of her life. I was, born with it on, and, it was a huge part of my life.
I understand that well, Grant. I understand that well. I mean, for me too, I'm older than you, and it was 3 p.m. For me, definitely.
That was it. No one could pick up the phone. That was off the grid time between 3 and 4. Or when we were watching the tape, if the phone rang, it was not being picked up.
What storylines hooked you in? What's your earliest memory?
Oh, God. My earliest memory, this is a great question. I don't know when this was. I could be imagining it, but I remember an episode where Roger Thorpe shot the television with a gun. There was some story on, some news story. It was unique. He was watching television and he shot the television. Do you remember this? I don't know what the storyline was.
I'm going to wait for the fans watching to tell me. I don't.
Yeah. It was later years for Michael Zaslow, but I was born in 1989, so I wasn't exactly watching during the real Holly Roger years, the thick of it.
Yeah.
But I remember that. And I also distinctly remember the Soap Opera Weekly cover of Kim Zimmer as the clone, the aging clone, and scaring my sister with that
I did that cover.
You did?
Yeah.
I was iconic.
Yeah, her with her clone. Absolutely. I wish I knew that before. I would have had that ready to show.
Yeah.
So what stories hooked you?
Well,
who were your favorites at the time when you were, being born in 1989? So you watched late 90s, I guess, right?
Late 90s. Yeah. Yeah, my most recent memories were the early 2000s. Those just stick out to me more just because I was just more aware of what I was seeing. But I'm so glad that my mom let me watch the shows because she could have never guessed what influence they would have had on me. But that was what was so great about the shows being like, I think TV 14, where there wasn't a crazy amount of sex and swearing. It was accessible. So I'm grateful for that. I tried to do that with Montecito to make it accessible. But to answer your question, I just remember Riva in that sauna for, I think it was a whole summer, where she was locked in by the clone. And remember that, where she was in the red suit, I think, and she was, it was months just months of her in there. And of course the Annie Dutton storylines, which were, wild and crazy with Cynthia. And I know there were a few other actresses in that role, but it's obviously
Oh, so
Cynthia's.
you watched Cynthia, you watched Laura Wright, Cassie's reveal as her sister. Peter Herman as the doctor who cloned Riva, Mariska Hargitay's husband.
Yes. Yeah, those really stood out to me. I mean, Riva was always on a journey in those moments. And I stuck with the show, till the end.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
I'm loyal,
so
I want to see them all do well. And I knew that, there was towards the end, they were, really, trying to make a go at it. And I wanted to show my support.
You attended the fan club gatherings with your mom, right?
Yeah, my whole family, we went a couple times. There I am. I thought I looked so good in that picture.
Caitlin and Emmy.
Yes. And there's my mom in the middle. Yeah, we went. This is one of the later, perhaps the last time we went, but I just remember having great memories. There's Crystal's also in the show. And I just remember it was such a magical experience, not just to meet them, but just to be kind of, feeling the vibe of the show and interacting with other fans and seeing how much it meant to people. And it really kind of brought this thing in my life into reality for me. It was, I didn't want to leave. I remember I was really into it. And my sister and I met Marge Doucet, and that was the highlight.
What year was that? Those pictures, do you know, around?
Oh, I want to say
in the 2000s sometime.
Yeah, 05, I want to guess.
2000s. Yeah, Crystal and Emmy came in.
Yeah, I want to say 05.
Wow. I mean, that's 20 years probably after my first fan club gathering.
Yeah. Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we must have crossed paths, Alan. I mean.
Well, I was working on
it, right?
So I definitely attended. Could you have ever imagined that Crystal and Em would be appearing in a series you created?
No, I could only wish I would be so lucky. It was just so cool to meet them. And that was really, I guess, my first kind of celebrity experience, I guess you could say. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you look at life that way. If 35-year-old Grant could tell
yes,
15-year-old Grant, the 13, that would be really, I think my mind would be blown.
I totally. I mean, same for me. I mean, I stood outside the studio to meet these actors that I ended up, working with for 13 years. So I understand it's a bizarre feeling, and to have your mom witness it too,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I ran some names past her when I was casting this show, and it was a big deal for her too.
Did you
weigh in? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you have said that the cancellation of As the World Turns and Guiding Light, the two shows I grew up watching and worked on, had a profound effect on you. Can you tell everybody how so?
Absolutely. I remember where I was. I was sitting in a college library studying, and it was, that infamous day of April Fools. And I remember seeing the headline come up, and it was, something I was like this. I mean, there was a lot of talk about, are the shows a package deal? Will they get renewed? There's going to be an announcement soon, but the timeline was quick. And it seems like a very quick announcement from the network and P&G. And it was this seismic shift in daytime TV and only what felt like a very short press release. And it really hit me. And I just couldn't believe that these shows that I viewed as institutions in television, historic shows, were just being plucked off the air. And it felt wrong. And I instantly I tried to get creative of why don't they just do an hour block and then 30 minutes and share the same studio? I was trying to put my producer hat on. I was in college, but I now know that there were a lot of reasons, why these decisions were made. But unfortunately, it kicked off a little bit of a trend with these shows, wrapping up their runs. And it just got me thinking about what can the future of this genre look like? And I know for those that were still doing it, they felt so fortunate. But the feeling was just to kind of let's just keep rolling, and I thought there has to be a way to really modernize the genre a little bit, and there has to be a way to bring these into the new era. I mean, they made the leap from radio to television, and there was a lot of innovation then. And here we are ignoring, the online world. And while there were utterances and places for, some podcasts that they did, I know Passions had a lot of online featurettes and things. They're just, the market at that point in online was just too early. But I knew there was a way forward to bring the genre online.
I have always said, if the shows were canceled a few years later, and I'm talking all four, All My Children, One Life, World Turns, and Guiding Light, one or two of them might still be on streaming somewhere if the streaming had figured it out. What did you study in college? Good
question. I originally studied communications or something, but I was at the University of Rhode Island, and I transferred because I wanted, this is funny, I wanted to create some form of a web soap. And so I wanted to go to film school, but I didn't want to study film. I wanted to study multi-camera directing and digital and television. And so I transferred to Chapman University in Orange County, California, and I had an emphasis in multi-camera directing. I really manifested that. I, moved from Rhode Island officially to California to study, and I had developed and pitched a web series. This is like 2009. So they were still just picking up speed, and it was, they were becoming a thing. And I pitched this, and I wanted to make it. And I actually had a professor block me from doing it because it had a similar name to a project he had when he went to NYU. Now, how would I know this? I don't know, but it was a iteration of Montecito. So it's been a long time coming, in many
16 years.
Yeah. So I'm glad to have the product made because it was, it took a long time, and it takes a long time to get something made. But I mean, this really was crazy, especially to go to a film school and not be able to really have a product coming out of it where other people were making student films, but they just didn't get it. They just didn't get it.
Yeah, for sure. For people watching us tonight who haven't listened to Montecito, how would you describe Montecito?
Well, if you can read a book or listen to an audio book, you're in for a very similar experience where, it's really the theater of the mind. It's, familiar voices from daytime that you can pick up with and enjoy. It's an immersive show. So it takes place in Montecito, California, with a malignant narcissist at the center of the story, really trapping a gay man with a baby, and then all the repercussions that come with that. She has a boyfriend on the show, and even though she's married, and there's a business storyline that she inserts herself in. And so there's a ripple effect from this, this main antagonist. And because she's a malignant narcissist, not only is she fun to write for, but she's wild. And this is a lot that comes from her.
And that is Chelsea Rendon, right?
Yeah, Chelsea Rendon, yeah. Who we are so lucky to have as Mina, because that was such a central point of the show and with casting. I mean, you had to get that role right, and man, does she put her foot in it.
Why Montecito? Is that where you're from?
No, I love the idea of Montecito. I would go and visit quite a bit. And I just thought it was like such a beautiful environment. This was before the Meghan and Harry and all that. This was before it kind of became like a caricature.
Ellen and Oprah and all of them.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful, exclusive environment. I always wanted this place, the setting, to be somewhere like beautiful, like just somewhere that was synonymous with beauty. And so you could have these rich people behaving poorly, on this beautiful backdrop. And I like the idea of like, even looking at like a Desperate Housewives, you have beautiful Wisteria Lane, all these big dramatic moments would happen. And then the next episode would start with that beautiful voiceover and music, and you'd see the hyacinth and the beautiful flowers. And it was always like a reset. So I love that in a setting where it can get really dark and grimy, but the next day it's always a beautiful day.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the cast. Crystal Chappelle, Vincent Irizarry, Peter Porte, Chelsea Rendon, Mike Manning, Emmy Ryland. Why Rick Hurst, whose voice is perfection.
Yes, he needs to be doing voiceover work.
He really, absolutely, absolutely. Every moment I hear him say Montecito. Why were they the right people?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, for a show like this to go out to cast members when there's nothing visual, right? I mean, there's no sizzle reel. I created a one pager, but to try to convince folks that this is going to be a premium audio serial. This is taken very seriously. No one's going to look or sound silly. So it really took an open mind and finding the right actors. And I've mentioned this before, but we really didn't have to go that far down the list. I mean, we wrote these characters before we cast them, and it was about finding the right match. And daytime, it's an embarrassment of riches. I mean, it was so hard. I have a full Google sheet with names on who we could kind of feel out in these roles, and it was really about who's right versus who do I just want to work with. Which is like crazy.
I don't know if he does, but another person whose voice is perfection is Peter's.
Oh yes,
Like
Peter Porte.
Has a voice over voice.
Yeah, he brings a lot of gravitas to Deacon, which is necessary because the character is, when we meet him, and he's quite dark. So we needed that. He did inject some humor, some light laughter, which works. It was not in the script, but he really did find the character.
That's awesome. Well, let's bring out your friend, your colleague, Andrew Pemberton-Fowler, the founder and CEO of Soapcast. I love that he's a lifelong student of the genre, and he also served as the executive story editor and script writer along with you. So please, everybody, welcome Andrew to the locker room.
Hello,
hi, Andrew.
Everyone. Hi, Alan. Hi, Grant.
Hi, Andrew.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see you both.
Before we dive into Monteceto, I want to hear your entree into this genre. Who led you down this path?
Well, so my mother, her mother, my dad loved All My Children. But my very, very first soap opera memory is being at my grandmother's house, and One Life to Live was on, and it was a love scene, and that is one of my first memories of a soap opera. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I want to say it was Tina and Cord. It had to have been late 80s, but I cannot remember. But I remember them, and I remember Cord especially. But then my very first, I became a soap opera viewer was in 1990. Kelly Ripa's very first episode of All My Children. I just happened to tune in that day. I think it was Thanksgiving of 1990, and I was hooked. And then Janet threw Natalie down the well, Harold the dog, Sarah Kendall Hart came
so that's
on.
why you
I
watched,
mean, it was
that's why you watched my episode with Kate.
yes. Yeah. I mean, that was peak soap opera for me. And I honestly,
that's a peak soap opera story for sure.
Yeah,
Janet down the well.
That 1990 through 95 was every day, ran home. We were in elementary school and we talked about it at school because It was so good. It was so good. So that's really how I got started. And then the All My Children scrapbook came out in 95. It was the 25th anniversary. There was just soaps everywhere. Like I said, we would pass around digests. We would talk about it at school. It was such a part of the culture. So I watched Loving, All My Children, One Life to Live, General Hospital, Young and the Restless, because my best friend watched it. And every year, Soap Digest would do the best and worst of the year. It was always the best soap. So I was like, well, I need to know.
Trust me, we wanted to be in there.
I bet, Al.
So I would borrow her tapes and we talk about it. And then I became a YNR viewer a little later on. But yeah, I read all of the scrapbooks. I read Hidden Passions when that came out. But I didn't, and the friends of mine knew the first Jamal on All My Children because he was from where we grew up. But I never met him. And when I was in college, I went to school in Atlanta first and then London. But when I was in Atlanta, I went to this job fair and ABC was there. So I was like, well, you have to help me get an internship on All My Children. I live in New Jersey. It's not that hard for me to get there in the summer. It did not work out. I was devastated. I was in London and I wanted to stay. So I sent out 10 resumes for that summer. 9 of them were in London. One of them was to the Young and the Restless in LA. And I was like, well, I'm not going to get that, but why not? That's the only one I got. So I had a phone interview, flew to LA, and that was 2004. and Kay Alden, Ed Scott, Kathy Foster was there, John Smith was there, and actors, Victoria Rowell was there, Keith Hamilton Cobb, so it was one of those moments where it was just like, I'm here and these people are real and I have a job to do, photocopying my scripts and dropping them off and being but it was probably the best training ground because I got to be quiet and watch. So seeing how you put together a soap opera, how you shoot multiple episodes in a day. So when I went back to college,
I truly think, Andrew, and I just like to say it all the time. I mean, an internship is so important. I was a page at ABC, and through that got many internships. And I went to school like Grant for communications, but my education truly was being on set every day.
Exactly. And Y&R, and I interned at Bold and the Beautiful the next summer, and I've always wanted to take them off my resume because I was like, well, I'm in business school now, I'm going corporate. But it's been that one thing where I have gotten more phone calls, maybe not the job, but more phone calls because someone said, oh, I saw Young and the Restless on your resume and I thought that was interesting. So, but that's the short version of like how I got into soaps and why I love it so much. So,
yeah. I love that. I had a question for both of you about your love. It escaped me. What for you, Andrew, what's the biggest thing you learned by watching all of those people in front of you on B&B and Y&R?
I think the best thing I learned was be prepared, be ready to have a conversation about where the scene is going, where the production is going as a whole, and having a vision that can be properly communicated from the top to the bottom. Because when you have that vision from your head writer, your executive producer, whomever has it, and that is properly disseminated down the line, the results show on the screen. When you have the competing vision is where I think a lot of shows, soap operas, get into a lot of trouble because someone wants to do this and everyone else is saying, we're not doing that. And then you have that.
Do you both still watch soaps at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm watching Beyond the Gates. I talk about it with my grandmother, and I dabble with Bold and the Beautiful here and there as well. It's a commitment,
Yeah.
But yeah, I still watch. It's still tough after losing a show that was such a big part of your life. I know my mom what is still a little gun shy to get in, to another one.
People miss it every day, every day. I mean, there's nothing like being in someone's living room 5 days a week. So you are really connected to these people. I've watched Days for the last week and a half, and I was never a Days watcher. And I'm heartbroken for all of those fans of Days of Our Lives watching the death of John Black and Drake Hogestyn.
I tuned in for that episode. I was curious. Yeah,
Deirdre has blown it out of the water. And that's just great storytelling, great storytelling.
For me, I watch Beyond the Gates, Emmerdale, Coronation Street, listen to The Archers on BBC Radio 4.
Andrew,
some of the
as a black man,
yeah,
as a daytime fan, knowing, all these shows have been canceled.
Yeah.
What has it been like for you to hear Beyond the Gates was coming and see what they have truly accomplished, I think, in a beautiful way?
Well, I think it's I think the first word that came to mind was reaffirming, because you no longer have pods of black people who only know each other and talk to each other and move like one organism around each other. So I think that is really beautiful to see. And, just having another soap period makes me jump up and want to do a little dance because, we've been, first soap of the millennium. We've had some audio soaps from the BBC that have come and gone in the earlier part of the 21st century. But one thing I was really excited for about Beyond the Gates was having a show that was created today, that is for today's audience, that has a different outlook than soaps created in the mid 20th century. So it's just a different way of approaching storytelling, because it's now, these characters were born 60 years ago, but they're living today, so I think that makes a big difference. And excited for it. I'm happy for it.
So happy for all involved. 3 women running the show.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Black person in every department leading it, which is, I don't think we've ever seen. I'm going to celebrate Pride with Beyond the Gates. I'm going to have 4 actors join me for that. So that's going to be fun later this month. How did you two come together?
We met at a podcast networking event in LA, right? And it came up right away that we both interned on the CBS soaps, right? I think that's how it kicked off. And
did you intern on CBS soap, Grant?
Yeah, I did Y&R and B&B as well.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yeah, like I was there like, I don't know, 2010. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I went that across the hall for the summer to Y&R very briefly, but yeah, it was a great experience. It was also a very weird time for soaps because it was 2010, so there was a big transition and feeling that reverb on the shows in real time. It was an interesting time to be on them. Yeah, but yeah, so we met and we connected, and obviously this has been a project that I wanted to do for a while in many different ways. And I knew that when the time was right, it would happen. And I was like, ooh, Andrew might be the one that may be interested in this. He might actually, do it. I say he gets it. He understands what I'm trying to do. He's a fan of the genre. He knows what it's like to produce. And he knows, the headaches that go behind that and what we need to know. And not only that, he knows how to write. Which is not my strong suit. I consider myself more of a producer first, writer second, where he's a true writer. And so I was like, well, this could be a good thing. Let's see. So I called up sheepishly. I was like, what do you think?
And what drew you in, Andrew? Well, it was audio, which I've always wanted to do an audio soap opera. So I did 2 pilots for them, and I just knew what goes into all of that. So, that was also really interesting. But in between us meeting and Grant asking, there was one iteration of Monteceto kind of in the middle that we worked on. But we became friends. So during that almost 2 years before we really said pen to paper, we're doing this, we just became friends. So getting to work with him. We also produced the official Gilded Age podcast together, season 2 of that. So we were very comfortable with each other, and it just kind of happened organically. So yeah, I love writing soap opera. I taught myself really because I said, well, I can figure this out. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
How did you figure that out? I don't think I could figure that out. Maybe I could if I really,
everything. He can reference stories, and he knows things about how these stories were broke. Old P&G shows way back in the day, and he knows his stuff.
Well, thank you, Grant. That was very kind. For starters, I'll keep this as brief as possible, but I listen to the way people speak to each other. So you just have to listen how everyone around you is talking to each other, and listen to strangers. I also think that's really interesting. The funniest thing I ever heard was when I lived in Chicago. I was on Pearson and Michigan Avenue, for anyone who knows where that is, next to the Hancock Center and Water Tower Place. And I'm waiting for the light to change, and these 2 college-age girls are behind me, and one of them says to the other, she was like, "I'm too poor for dietary restrictions." And I just thought, if that isn't the cleverest thing I have ever heard. So I think it's listening to things like that in real life. There were books I read at Y&R. I read everything I could. I would read the long story that came through if I was able to, because sometimes they're like, you don't read that. I'm like, I was a fast reader. But I would read the scripts. I would read the breakdowns. I would write on my own. So just getting better as a writer. I was nominated for like 2 screenwriting awards after college. So I was just more comfortable like figuring it out, but I knew how it was styled. I knew where the breaks came in. I understood the flow of story from long story all the way down to an outline to a script. But once again, like you just start trying it yourself. You just start writing. I would write my own soaps in middle school, and I would just write. And like I still have some of those notebooks, and you just start writing, and you write, and you listen, and you write, and you listen, and then you learn, broadcast lengths, and you start to watch other soaps, and you're like, okay, that works. This doesn't. This kind of writing I like. This kind I don't. So I would just distill it all and write my own soap operas and write my own long story and outlines and, figure out the best way for me. But, I would go to like the Erna Phillips archive in Wisconsin and the Agnes Nixon archive at Northwestern and just read their outlines and read their Bibles and read the communication. Because when you can see why Erna Phillips decided to do this story in a letter, and then you read the outline or the long story or the script, you're like, okay, now I'm beginning to see how all of this is put together. And there were 2 really good books, one called like Writing for Soaps from the UK, and another one by a US writer. She wrote for soaps in the 70s and 80s. She wrote a book, and I read both of those, and they had really great information.
You don't remember her name?
Jean Revaux. She wrote for the Procter & Gamble soaps. But her book was really good. Familiar. Yeah. And those were really, really good. But yeah, so when Grant was like, will you do this with me? I'm like, of course. It was the pandemic.
I wanted to work with
I have nothing else.
Yeah, no, so, I absolutely.
Really happy.
Andrew, do you turn on all the shows today to see? You might not watch them regularly, but to see or to hear, to listen, as you say.
So, I'm producing a new show right now that I can't talk about. So I was in the office today, and I did have on 3 soaps actually. So I was listening while I was working, but my hours are so long now that I have to really, like, I have a soap for every time of the day, and my boyfriend is like, another one? I'm like, yeah. I mean, this is not, Neighbors is different than Home and Away, which is different than Hollyoaks, which is different than EastEnders or Emmerdale. So I try to watch as much as I can, but I will say, like, in my daily rotation, that every day it's The Archers, it's Neighbors, it's Hollyoaks. Those are really my 3 every day, and the rest I'll watch.
I really have not watched the UK ones. I wanted to do a show. Neighbors is your Australian one? Yeah, I wanted to do a show on that. Tried to. And I watched, I think I went back and watched the first few, and I was intrigued. But now I'm really watching YNR Beyond the Gates, and I, tuned into A Friend Lent Me Peacock because I didn't have that. So I was watching what was really on network. I think General Hospital has knocked it out of the park since the Nurses Ball. It's been riveting TV. And I never was a GH person. Incredible, for sure. So tell me the writing process for this show. What were each of your strengths in bringing this to life?
Grant, would you like to tackle that?
Sure. I mean, I mapped out the long story. Originally, it was 12 episodes. It felt unnecessary to do 12. I thought 12 would be a nice, like, when you look at like linear TV, their seasons, 12 is, more standard. But in the audio space, 10 is acceptable. And while it would have been very easy to do a pilot and just do 1 episode, what does that really get you with soap opera? It's a different medium. You have to tell the story of an arc. It's an ensemble show. Not everyone's going to be in the first episode. So it was important that we tell it with the right amount of time, tell the story with the right amount of time, with the right amount of voices. And it was like I really didn't cut back anything. I mean, we could have had less people on the show, but it had to be this amount of people. Like I was very insistent on,
I don't think it's, I think
cut
it's a
corners.
perfect amount of people. It's not, I don't feel confused or anything. I mean, I feel it's a good amount of people. I know who everybody is.
It was an effort.
Say it again.
I was gonna say, we made a true effort to slowly introduce. We had like 4 voices, then
you
5.
didn't have everybody in the first episode.
Yeah, no, it was a slow build, so no one was lost.
Talk about that first episode, because it really did. For me, I hope everybody else, and there's people watching who haven't listened yet and said they were going to now, but how did that, how did you tackle that first episode to make it, sort of the bombshells and the sort of the intrigue that a soap should be? I mean, yeah, it isn't always easy. I mean, I think it is a creator or an executive producer or writer's idea to make that happen, but it doesn't always. But you did it. So I'm curious, how much effort did it take to get that, to make me want to come back, make me want to come back?
Yeah, I mean, I had this. I knew I wanted this first episode this way. We have a gala event. We're thrust right into the action. There's no voiceover in the show.
It's a soap opera. Who doesn't need a gala event to kick things off?
Exactly. We need women in gowns with jewelry, men in suits. So this is all in your head, but it's like we need glamour. And I just wanted something really over the top, beautiful backdrop to really bring people into this lifestyle. And, it's going to be different in everyone's head, which is great too. It's a unique experience for everyone listening. But I want to give a shout out to Trey Booty, who did the sound design and really painted the picture for this, especially in episode 1. There was a lot of focus on the sound design, so we could present this beachfront, resort water on the water, and with the just enough of dramatic music to carry us through, but also pacing and moving between scenes. There's no fade to black. We don't see the dramatic tags of the zooming in on the actors' faces. So
the stare.
Yeah. I mean, I just would love it if we did, but it's up to you. It's up for interpretation, really. So it was really about replicating broadcast quality, broadcast soaps, so people are trained to understand ins and outs of scenes and how do we make that work in audio. And it's all about pacing. It's all about building up to the end of the scenes. This episode that you mentioned, the first episode, is basically in real time, and we're bouncing around and following this party scene.
Yeah.
So it's a little different right? than your traditional set scene, commercial break, back to the original set. So, couldn't lose anyone. But I wanted a beautiful backdrop, and I wanted to slowly introduce people. And I will say, I have not seen one comment that anyone was lost. And that is really, really affirming. And I appreciate it, because we made a tremendous effort to make sure it was clear. But yeah, Andrew, what do you make of it? Of the first episode?
Oh goodness. Well, I wanted to make the first and second episode one episode, but I was outvoted by the executive.
You wanted a longer episode?
Yeah, I thought let's put them together. But we did them as 2 episodes. But the first episode, you have to introduce everyone, but you can't introduce everyone because the characters the characters know each other. So how do we avoid going through 9 minutes of exposition to get to the action of the actual episode? And one thing I believe, and I actually read this in a How to Write a Soap Opera online when I was in high school, but it said, before you write your pilot, your action needs to start the day before. So what were the characters doing up until the moment we meet them? So when that elevator opens, Mina is she's off. The episode has started. So I think that's one of the ways this show has such driving action, is because we started it in the middle of their day. We joined them in progress. So it wasn't like, this is my mother-in-law and I don't like her. it was like, no.
She did not like her. Does
no.
not.
So we just start, at the actual point in time. And I do think that really guided us through the rest of the show.
Andrew, I'm like thinking of the cast. Was it exciting for you to have Vincent Irizarry?
David Hayward, yes. Of course, Vincent was, for me, he came on All My Children 97, 98, something like that. So yeah, I was in high school and I loved him on All My Children. Absolutely loved his character. That whole family they ended up building with Vanessa and Leo and Palmer and Erica when she was with, that was catnip to me. So it was really, really great working with him. But when we wrote this, we didn't know who would be in it. We wrote it so far ahead. It's interesting, when people ask us, and it's like, no, you just write the character and then the actors show up. But if Grant and I went away tomorrow to write season 2, those same voices I had for the characters would be in my head. I can't have the actors in my head. I just have to write for the character.
Yeah, I feel like I'm too close to these characters where I have to write in their voice. I know the voice of them more than the actors at this point still.
I like that. As gay men, how important was it to have a gay story, romance?
Do you want to talk about that, Grant?
Well, we talked about like how originally it was the main characters. Yeah, the main characters were not a same-sex couple, just a straight couple. We're gonna have Deacon was married to Mina and had this girlfriend that came back, and we spent some time adapting it. I had to sit with it for a while.
Oh, interesting. So it was going to be a girlfriend who came back.
It was, and I think we were still in like breaking them down, and I was like, I feel like this Miranda character, like she's just, I think it needs to be a man. And Grant was like, it can't be a man. He's straight. And I was like,
I was so tied to the Bible.
Oh my God, Andrew, I love you. Thank you.
I was like, this.
But isn't that's what collaboration is, guys, right? You might not think it, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow.
Yeah. So I didn't want to brand the show as like an LGBT series or a drama. It just is. This just is a same-sex couple front and center. And there's he's married to a woman. I've seen some comments about like bisexuality. We view Deacon as gay, but Gio has a lot of secrets himself. So, it's kind of like it makes it more messy. So Andrew was right.
Were you surprised, Grant, at how well it worked? Since you had another idea?
I was, but also like Andrew said, it just fell like it needed to change. Like it fell into place. The puzzle pieces.
Impact. I mean, that's what, when you think soap opera, the impact of that is larger than if it was a woman. It just is.
Yeah, it is. It's something different.
It is for every character on your canvas, not just themselves, but mother and father, the son, right? Like if it was Deacon having an affair with a woman and the son, they wouldn't have the conflict, and Vincent's character wouldn't have the, it's a
Definitely
very different.
Not.
Yeah.
It shaped Bradley quite a bit. And it's great to write for Bradley and his perspective, because it's not the pat on the head, everything's good, we love it except you kind of vibe. It's a messed up family.
I love that. Love that it was not intended. For both of you, it might not be the same. Is there a scene, a moment in these 8, 10, you don't have to give it away, but like if we could see the visual of it on television, what scene would you love to see come to life in a visual format?
I can answer first. I think the first episode has lived in my head for so long in many ways, but I mean, we hit it the right way, and I wouldn't change a thing about that first episode. So that just to see that, and would be
come to life.
Yeah, it would be a great payoff. But the final scene in the final episode of episode 10, that's all I'll say.
And I think we're coming up on my chat with Vincent. Vincent and I caught up a few days ago. He teases that as well. Like, I think he says he didn't see it coming. Is I think how he phrased it.
I have not heard this, so
yeah,
giving away.
There's a moment in that final episode of this season, which I'm not going to spoil, but it's reminiscent of something that happened on Search for Tomorrow that fans still talk about today, and I'm not going to say any more than that.
Oh, interesting. I need to know after, Andrew. I mean, I watched a little of Search decades, not regularly. That is amazing. Before I bring Vincent on, what do you want to both tease about the final 2 episodes, which begins next Tuesday?
Oh, Andrew, I want you to do this. You're so good at this, but I'll just say that everything is there's the satisfaction in the stories that we have told you. We'll be satisfied. There's, there are some red herrings in the scripts. So for all these people who think they know where it's all going to go, you got to wait until the last scene. And I will mention that last scene that we keep referencing is a 10-minute scene. It was captured in 10 minutes in real time with several people in it. And it was our biggest scene. And we actually recorded it kind of early in the process just because of scheduling, but it had to work and it works.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, that's a good tease. Well, gentlemen, thank you. If you'd like to stay and listen to Vincent, I'll come back to you at the end.
Yes, sure. Let's listen.
Thank you.
Daytime fan favorite and my friend Vincent Irizarry sat down with me a few days ago to talk about his role as Bradley Belasco on Montecito. First off, always so good to see you.
Same here, my friend Alan.
Montecito. I know I introduced you to Grant, but what drew you to the role of Bradley and doing an audio drama?
Well, I can't remember doing an audio drama, even though it seems like that's the origins of daytime with the radio when it was on radio. And it sounded great. It sounded like a fun project. I got to work with other actors that I haven't worked with before, like Crystal Chappelle, which is excellent. She's playing my wife. And I thought it would be cool to do. So that's basically it. And it seemed like from what I read when he sent me the first script, I thought, yeah, this could be really good. He may have sent me more of a breakdown about what it was all about the first time. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we got it together and I got to work with some of the actors and it was fun. And the character I just thought was an interesting character. I could certainly see myself playing him on camera as well. So I thought this could be good. Yeah.
When I listened to the first episode, I mean, he really hooked me in. I haven't listened to audio dramas regularly, but I was hooked on that first episode. It was really well done.
Yeah,
and I've been listening ever since. But
it was well done. It's been great. They've really created the atmosphere of the environment. So that's great, and with all the performances. We recorded it all together. All of us were together doing it. So that was fun. It was great to do that because you got kind of into a flow listening to everybody working and doing it. I mean, I'm going to share something. Maybe Grant doesn't want me to share this, but unfortunately, a few months later, he asked me if I can redo all of my parts because there was an audio problem on my end that they didn't pick up when we were recording. So no. I regrettably, I was happy to do it. But I regret that it wasn't the same as when I was doing it with everybody, because Grant read all the lines that time. So I don't know if he wanted me to share that. I'm sorry, Grant,
wow.
If I did. But it doesn't matter because the final product, you did a great job, Grant. It sounds great, but I really enjoyed doing it when we were doing it together. So I'm sorry that whatever the audio was at that time, that was problematic, that they didn't pick up on it. But it is what it is.
Hey, technical difficulties definitely happen in the modern world.
That's right. And the show must go on. So there you go.
Correct. Yeah. Which, I think in audio, it's not always common that you do it together. So that must have been really fun for you, and
Yeah.
playing opposite Crystal Chappelle for the first time.
Absolutely. I've known Crystal for so many years. We've never worked together. And so it was great to do that. And I even said it when we were all finished. It was a real joy working with her. It was fun.
Well, and you both have been
in it.
on the same shows too, but never at the same time.
At different times. Yeah, it is pretty funny that we just keep missing each other. But this gave us the opportunity to work together, which was great.
I love it. I'm sure daytime fans would love to see you two on camera together as well.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. That would be great. I have great respect for as a talent, that's for sure.
How did you find it different than doing, a real daytime soap? And was there a different process for you to find the character of Bradley?
Not really as much a different process. I mean, I read the script and I put it together. I identify with the character wherever necessary, as much as I possibly can. And the actions of the character, the motives of the character. So it's pretty much the same in that regard. The obvious is not being in the same room with people and working directly off of them. That's the difference. I mean, yes, we were all on a Zoom together. I guess it was Zoom or something that we were doing it and recording it. But it's not the same as if you're in a set or on location and you're there with that person and you're working directly off of them moment to moment. That's a totally different environment. This was us listening to each other. We could see each other on, in a little like squares there, but it wasn't the same,
right.
Up with somebody from a thumbnail, not the same, but it's still, we're all professionals. So we made it work, do what we have to do. That's it.
Like you said, the show goes on.
Yeah, for sure. And they did a great job. I mean, I've been enjoying it. I would say that Yvonne, my girlfriend, she's been loving it. She really has totally got caught up with it. So every Tuesday, she's like immediately turning it on to check it out. So that's great. So
I know I've had to put reminders so I remember to do that as well. But I'm caught up now. It really has. And Rick Hurst is a perfect voice for the.
He is perfect for it. And I didn't get to work with him. He wasn't on that call that we all did. So when I first started seeing his picture, when they were advertising, I goes, Rick, where was Rick in it? I don't remember seeing Rick in it. And I love Rick. I mean, Rick's a sweetheart. He's a dear guy and he's incredibly talented. I enjoyed working with Rick for many years, and he's just very special. So I was happy to see there was a part of it, but I didn't know what it was until I heard the advertisement. I heard his voice. I said, "Oh, there's Rick Herbst. There he is."
It's a great nod to radio. It really is.
For sure. He's perfect for that part, without question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Peter Porte, if I pronounce it correct, and Jake Getman play your son Deacon and grandson Diego. Talk about your relationship with Deacon and Diego.
Bradley's relationship with Deacon is very problematic. It has a lot of conflict in it, and it continues to grow throughout the episodes. I think we just had the 7th episode. I think it might be the 9th.
There was some tension there.
Yeah, there definitely was tension there during this one. It definitely builds, though. It may be the 9th episode where it just like comes out, explodes, and especially even with Diego. And obviously, there's a problem with Diego and his father as well, which is kind of interesting because Bradley's problems with Deacon are similar to Deacon's problems with Diego. Deacon has issues with the way that I raised him and the way that I was with my family, with his mother especially, and growing up. Okay. And it's very similar to Diego has his resentment towards his father, the way that he is towards his mother and others. So that's definitely almost generational that is being passed down. But there are other issues there as well. And people need to tune in, and it's definitely going to be explosive. That's for sure.
The shit's going to hit the fan.
Yeah, very much so. And Diego, with Diego and Bradley, they have a very special relationship. I guess to some degree, Diego sees Bradley, his grandfather, as almost his father in a way. They have that kind of a relationship together. which is very interesting. And it's great. It's actually a really good story. And
Well,
you'll see.
art somewhat imitates life. You are a father. You are a grandfather.
I am. I'm a father 4 times over and a grandfather 4 times over.
Wow.
I just went back to Washington, D.C. Just a few weeks ago to meet my new grandson, who was born on April 24th.
Oh my God, that's my father's birthday.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And he's just such a beauty. He's such a beauty. I'm telling you, I love just sitting there holding him in my arms for like hours at a time. He's so chill and just like stares at you and like smiles and looks like he's like with wonder. And I have my 3 granddaughters. They're all so amazing. So I got to spend time with them as well. So yeah.
What is it like watching your kids be parents themselves?
It's amazing. I mean, it's a beautiful, it's part of the cycle of life, I guess, and it's funny, when I first became a grandfather, my granddaughter Airly, she's 6 years old now. And when I first was saying that, people were like, how do you feel about being grandfather? I'm like, I think it's amazing. I think it's great. I mean, this is the next stage of my life that I become a grandparent now. I'm 65 years old now. So I was 59 when that happened. That was perfectly fine. That seems like the appropriate time for something like that to happen. And I have my other 2 granddaughters since then, and now my grandson, and having my 4 children. I have my 2 daughters and my 2 sons, and they're all wonderful kids. They're all very different in a lot of ways, but they're all very close. And that's what I love about my family. I'm very close with my 5 brothers and sisters, with my family, my parents. Unfortunately, my mother just passed away last month, as I think because you commented on social media.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big one, obviously, for obvious reasons. So we're dealing with that.
She was around for her great grandchildren.
Yes, she was. She didn't meet Ander. He was born after she passed. She passed on April 5th. So she, actually no, she. Maybe I'm confusing it a little bit. She saw his picture. She did see his picture, so that I have the dates wrong. So yeah, she saw his picture because I sat there with her showing pictures of him. But she was there for her 3 granddaughters, so great granddaughters. So that was fantastic. She was very, she was excited. She just loved them. I've got some beautiful pictures of the 3 granddaughters with her, great granddaughters with her. So yeah, and she and my father, they celebrated the 70th anniversary.
That is, that is something to, mark for the record books, because
yes, absolutely.
That is a milestone.
70, and they've known each other since they were 9 years old. So they've been in each other's lives throughout their lives. So this is a big one for my father. So I went back to where he is right now. He's living in Georgia. I went back during Mother's Day weekend just to be with him during that time. So, wow. But that's it. I mean, for me, having 4 children and 4 grandchildren, and with my family, the way I was raised, we're all very close. So family is everything to us. And I'm very grateful for that. Grateful that I have brothers and sisters that I consider to be heroes in my life, who've always been there for me when I needed them. And I hope they feel the same way about me. I believe they would. So that's, the importance of family.
Beautiful. Father's Day is in 10 days.
Yes.
What, your dad's been a part of your world. What did you learn from him that you've now passed down to all of these generations?
I would say about my father and my mother, but certainly with my father was the type of person that raised us with the ethic that if you want something in life, you will help you, will give you what you need. But if it's something you want, then it's something you need to get for yourself. You need to work towards it. And that was an ethic that I was raised with. And there were many instances that I could see in my life that really was, for me, it brought something out in me for a drive, for a commitment and a sense of responsibility that I'm grateful for, that was passed down to me from my father. Okay. I mean, my mother and father eloped at 16 years old. And, they had nothing. And I think when I first turned 21, that was an eye opener for me, because they were 21 when they had me, and I was their third child. And I can honestly say that I was not mature enough to raise a dog at 21. Okay. So they sacrificed their youth to raise a family. So I have great respect for them, and to see what they were able to accomplish together, and the family that they grew, that they had, and the children that they reared. That's something
you need to write a script, Vincent, about this.
Yeah, well, I'm very proud to have been a part of that, and very grateful to them, for sure, to both of them, without question.
Wow. I wish I had counted. Montecito's like your what soap?
My which soap? It's my seventh, actually.
7th.
If we're going to count it for that. I've been on 6 daytime shows, yes, and now Montecito. So yeah, I guess you can call it a soap. It is a soap. It's an audio soap, so it's my 7th.
I mean, it really is, and with Beyond the Gates coming out, and I know fans still clamor for All My Children to return.
Yeah. I mean, it still has an audience base there that loves the medium. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the politics, the inner workings of all of these things. I was baffled completely by the fact that All My Children and One Life to Live were taken off the air. And I mean, I understand there's certain other cost-effective issues that are there. Whether or not it was cost prohibitive, cost effective, I don't know, but I just know the audience is there, and they're very committed. And I've always been very grateful to have been a part of it for all those years, for so many years. And I've been very fortunate to play some amazing characters that I'm very proud of.
You certainly have. I was going to ask, one of my last questions was going to be about feedback that you've heard about Montecito. Well, you've heard it right at home. Your girlfriend, she's loving it.
She's loving it. She is loving it. And I read things on social media that people are responding to it and loving it as well. So yeah, it's exciting. And I believe it's 10 episodes, right? If I remember correctly. So we just had the 7th.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So I believe there's 3 more episodes left.
Correct.
And a lot is going to happen in those 3 episodes, I'm telling you. And it has a great cliffhanger at the end.
Oh, it does? Oh, good. Well,
great.
That's a soap opera right there.
Yes, it's a great.
That is a soap opera. Well, I hope we get to see more of Bradley in another season. I hope this continues. I think Grant.
I will say this about the cliffhanger. I didn't know the cliffhanger. I didn't know anything about it until I read it the first time. I was like, what the hey? I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was very cool. So
that's great. Great
way to tease folks. Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for always.
Thank you, Alan. Always a pleasure, my friend. It's been 40 years since I've known you as well.
It really has. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's amazing. So it's great.
221 West 26th Street.
That's it. That's right. That's true. Right there between 6th and 7th Avenue.
Well, enjoy Father's Day, my friend.
It was 7th and 8th, actually.
7th and 8th. Yeah, 7th and 8th.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Have a great Father's Day.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
That was fabulous.
I told you he was teasing that cliffhanger.
Yeah. Oh, that was fabulous. It was so great to hear his feedback.
Yeah. Well, his girlfriend's feedback too.
Yeah. We love the fans. Thank God for the people tuning in. Thank God she's into it.
Do you have hope for season 2? Would you love to do a season 2?
Creatively, yes. There's so much more I want to do. It's a Herculean effort. So I need a little bit of a minute.
Have you two talked about ideas already?
I told him, bring me the long story when it's ready, and we will we'll get to work. But that's up to Grant.
Yeah, we threw some names around. I mean, there's gonna have to be some without giving away too much. There's some new potential twists and turns and voices here.
Some good voices to get 100%.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm very optimistic. The idea was really to like put it out into the universe, and like the podcast market has changed drastically since we started this project. So goals and things have changed, but it's still all about building an audience and creating something new and having original IP and wanting to work with SAG-AFTRA again to create another deal with them to do this. And I'm very optimistic towards it. So yeah.
Well, I wish you both the best. This has been a pleasure. Andrew, pleasure to meet you. Grant, thank you so much for doing this and bringing us the world of Montecito.
Alan, thank you for supporting this project more than anything. You've been a huge support to me in the show, and you keep the spirit of these shows alive. And so that means a lot to me as a soap fan too. And I know all the subscribers must feel the same way. Thank you.
You bet. You guys stay well. Happy Pride.
Thank you. Happy Pride.
Bye, gents. Thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. Please check out Montecito. Thank you to Grant and Andrew for stopping by. Join me next Wednesday, June 11th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for Conversations with Alan, when Josh Wiener, the co-founder of the Chicago Jewish Alliance, and his husband, Kevin Schultz, stop by. Josh is a proud Jewish leader and a fourth-generation descendant of the Armenian genocide. Josh left a 15-year marketing career to take a stand against rising anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. He'll share his personal journey, including what it means to be both gay and Jewish in today's America, and the work he's doing to lead with truth and purpose. His husband, a non-Jew, will also offer his own powerful perspective on witnessing anti-Semitism up close. Don't miss this powerful episode next Wednesday. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And if you'd like to stream audio versions, just search The Locker Room on your favorite podcast app. I did just put the Montecito link to Apple Podcasts up on YouTube. So if anybody hasn't listened, you can do so now. Stay well, have a great weekend, and as always, please stay safe.